When Apple switched the iPhone 15 to USB-C, I naturally assumed that every Apple product and accessory would quickly switch over to USB-C, and well, that didn't really turn out like I thought it would, and this transition to USB-C is taking a lot longer than I expected. And I, like a lot of other users, are getting pretty impatient waiting for Apple to release an update to their older AirPods Max headphones, and the one thing we all really want is just a USB-C port. So when Sonos announced their new Sonos Ace headphones with a very premium look, a promise of great sound quality, and a USB-C port above all else, well, I just started thinking, did Sonos just beat Apple? So when I first took the Sonos Ace out of their box, I was struck with how much these look like a hybrid between two very popular headphones I'm familiar with. The popular Sony XM5s, or whatever number Sony puts before them, and Apple's AirPods Max. The way in which they resemble AirPods Max is with their telescoping stainless steel arms, which offer really smooth adjustability without any creaking or cracking, a common complaint that I have with other plastic-built headphones. However, just like AirPods Max, they do not fold into a more compact design, and the only way to fit these headphones back into their included case is to make sure that the arms are fully retracted. The included case is fine, I think it gets the job done, but it's just a little bigger than I would like, although I think it's probably going to get a better reception over this. Like the Maxes, the Aces also have a set of magnetic ear cups, which Sonos says is made from vegan leather. And one nice part of this design is when you look at the inner ear cups, you can see that they are different colors to distinguish between the right and left. But then, unlike AirPods Max, the rest of the body is mostly plastic. And while not as premium as Apple's aluminum AirPods Max headphone cups, this does make the Sonos Ace headphones much lighter. And that is a great compromise overall, because this strikes a really good balance between great build quality, but also being lightweight and comfortable. And with breathable ear cups and a narrow but very comfortable headband that doesn't squeeze the top of my head, these might be one of the most comfortable pairs of headphones that I have ever worn. Every time I put these on, I can wear them for hours, and they feel almost invisible. I say this as someone that really doesn't mind the additional weight of AirPods Max, but I just gotta say, these are a joy to wear. The overall headphone design looks premium and clean, and I really like it, except for one small detail, and this is a really minor complaint, but it's me, right? I do not like this big Sonos logo on the right ear cup. To me, this kind of just ruins the otherwise very nice design aesthetic that Sonos created here, and I wish the Sonos logo was a lot smaller, or honestly, I would just remove this from the headphone cup, and then I think it's really nice looking at that point. Like when you wear this, it's kind of like, it's just screaming, hey, Sonos. So I would change that for maybe the next iteration. You'll also notice while we're talking about the cups of these headphones, there's some interesting design elements here with the microphone placement on the bottom, but here's how the mic quality sounds overall.
And you can be the judge for yourself. Here is a test recording of the Sonos Ace microphones.
Now you'll notice when we're talking about the ear cups, you'll see some physical controls here, and you can notice this really strange one, which we'll talk about in just a second. So there's three physical controls. There's a power button on the left headphone cup, and then on the right cup, there's a button to toggle between noise cancellation and transparency mode. And then there's this weird switch on the right cup, which Sonos calls the content key. And I'm not really sure how I feel about this. So basically, this switch presses in to control media, as you assume it would, right? Like if you press it once, it'll play and pause music. If you double tap, it will skip between tracks, and then triple tapping goes back a track. If that sounds familiar, well, that's because it is, right? That's how most headphone controls work. But then this content key button actually slides up and down to adjust the volume. And what I like about this system to control volume is that you can slide it up once to go up one volume notch, or you can slide it down once to decrease the volume by one. But then you can also slide and hold the content key to keep raising or lowering the volume very quickly. And it's a really easy and fast way to raise or lower the volume. And while I love that because it's just one flick and it's very fast, the mechanism for this switch I feel is just a little too sticky sometimes. Like sometimes I might press up, and if I'm applying too much pressure or force to one side, well, the content key kind of gets stuck for just a second. Also, compared to how premium the rest of the headphone design feels and how much I like the build quality, I do feel like the content key feels a little cheap. Like almost like if I keep like toggling it, it kind of feels like it might wiggle and fall off. I mean, that might just be an unrealized fear, but yeah, overall, compared to the rest of the way the headphone is, the control does feel kind of cheap to me. But listen, see what I did there? It's a pun. Because we're about to talk about sound quality. Because if these have any chance at replacing my AirPods Max, they need to sound good. No, they need to sound great. And the good news is that sound quality is overall very pleasing to my ears. It has a good mix, and Sonos excels in the high to low frequencies with a satisfying thumping bass, and the headphones get nice and loud in volume. I enjoyed listening to all types of tracks on the Sonos Ace, and in a vacuum, I thought they sounded about just as good as my AirPods Max, but that can be a bit deceiving without a direct comparison. And in a side-by-side comparison to the AirPods Max, I'm here to tell you that overall, the AirPods Max still win out in overall sound quality, which is honestly a little shocking to me considering these were released 4 years ago, and I thought with a more modern, updated headphone, Sonos would have had the edge here. My main problem with the Sonos Aces was mostly with how it sounded a little muddier, like maybe in the mid frequencies, it was just less crisp than my AirPods Max. Almost like the AirPods Max had more room for a bigger soundstage, kind of just let the music breathe a little bit more, while the Sonos Ace just felt more constrained, if that makes sense. It's always so hard to describe how things sound, right? And yes, Sonos does have a nice little thing that you can do here is that you can tweak the EQ in the Sonos app to customize the sound more to your personal preference. And while I played around with that, overall I couldn't dial it into the way I wanted it to, and I still mostly preferred the settings on my AirPods Max for a more pleasing sound experience in most of the tracks I tested. But again, sound is subjective, so your mileage may vary here. These also support Dolby Atmos listening, which does a better job of giving you a bigger soundstage overall. And Sonos even has some head tracking features that work. So if you move your head around, you can almost kind of feel like you're in like the same room as like the music's being playing. I personally don't like this feature. I turn it off because I find it a little bit distracting as I'm moving my head and the sound is changing. But overall, the Dolby mixes, at least good Dolby mix tracks, do sound really nice on the Sonos headphones. Still, there is something that Sonos has with their headphones that the AirPods Max do not. The ability to listen to lossless music with either the included USB-C to USB-C cable or a USB-C to 3.5mm cable. Ah, yes, cables, a grand invention. I usually can't tell a difference between lossless music tracks, but I like this feature for users that do want to take advantage of being able to listen to lossless music on what are both very expensive headphones, and the Sonos Ace are the only ones that can do that between these two, right? And I personally, without even, worrying about higher sound quality, I just like being able to connect these to a 3.5mm device, or if I really want to do a USB-C to USB-C connection, which works pretty effortlessly on most devices now, and especially on modern phones that only have a USB-C port. My one gripe, the length of these included cables. It's just so short. Listen, let's have a heart-to-heart, headphone manufacturers out there, anyone who's shipping cable accessories. Can someone tell me, why do you keep making these short audio cables and including them with your products? Like seriously, I can barely maneuver with these plugged in, and I have zero leeway when I'm plugged in sitting at my desk. Someone needs to do something. It could be Sonos, it could be Apple, it could be Sony, it could be Beats. They're owned by Apple, I get it, but someone in the headphone manufacturing department, someone across all phones and every other accessory out there. How much more money would it cost to ship a cable that I could, hold completely outstretched my arms? I could snap this thing in half if I keep going. That's it. That is it. It doesn't even fill the camera frame. This isn't a big studio, guys. What are we doing over here? Another thing I totally wasn't in love with on these Sonos Ace headphones was the noise cancellation, as I felt it was just a little weaker than what I was used to. For example, I was wearing them in my studio and I could still hear the hum of my air conditioner even with music at half volume. I even did a side-by-side test where I stood in my closet with the TV on in the other room and an overhead fan spinning in the other room. And with the Sonos Ace, I could still hear the faint sound of the TV in the other room with no music on, and I could hear the constant whirl of the fan. I did the same test with the AirPods Max, and I could maybe sometimes make out the TV audio, but that overhead fan was completely silent. And that's a good test to kind of see how it cancels out constant noises in the background, something similar to maybe like a jet engine on a plane. So I haven't had a chance to wear these on a plane yet, but I'm kind of thinking you're going to be able to hear some sort of slight hum or noise when you're wearing these, because the noise cancellation, at least in my experience, just wasn't as powerful. Like most noise canceling headphones, the Sonos Ace also includes a awareness mode, and while it does work, I just don't understand why out of all the headphones and earbuds that other companies make, no one seems to get close to Apple's transparency mode. Like on any pair of AirPods, this is a feature where my voice and other voices and sounds that get picked up and fed back through the headphones sound really natural, like I'm wearing nothing at all. Whereas with the Sonos Ace, even though I can hear things very clearly, which is very good, I can always tell that the sounds are being fed through a microphone. They don't sound fully natural. And it's just puzzling to me how it's not a Sonos problem. It's like every other headphone manufacturer, except for Apple, doesn't quite nail the transparency mode. So once again, I gotta give Apple credit here. They still have the best transparency mode after all these years. Although one benefit I will give the Sonos Ace is that when you're using the transparency mode or the noise cancellation mode, you do get better battery life. Sonos says you get about 30 hours of battery life even with those active, which is 10 hours more than the AirPods Max. And while I haven't done a full 30-hour test listening straight on these headphones, these do indeed seem to last longer than my AirPods Max. And because they have a button on the side to turn them off, you can actually make sure they're off, not draining battery. Apple, you could learn a thing or two here from these headphones. I think the biggest thing for me with the Sonos Ace that's kind of hard to get over is how they both work in their own ecosystem. Now, we all know how AirPods work, right? They automatically connect to all of your Apple devices and you only really need to pair them once. And while the Sonos headphones do pair easily through the app, well, if you want to pair them to your iPhone and your Mac or your iPhone and your Apple Watch, well, then you need to redo that Bluetooth pairing process because, this obviously isn't working in that Apple ecosystem. The Sonos Ace can support switching between two connections at once, but it's still pretty limited when you're used to the Apple ecosystem. The Sonos app is also a little frustrating, and during this review process, I've had times where I open the Sonos app and it tells me nothing is connected, and then a few seconds later, then the headphones pop up and then I can access those settings. In the app, you can see the battery life, you can change the EQ, set up head tracking for Dolby Atmos, and tweak the cycle of noise control settings and wear detection. And if you live in the Sonos ecosystem, you even get more features out of these, like the ability to automatically switch the sound between your Sonos soundbar and the Sonos Ace headphones. However, I do not own a Sonos soundbar, so I really couldn't test this feature, and even if I had this is probably a feature I'm not that interested in, as I don't usually watch TV with headphones on. However, despite not being in the Sonos ecosystem, I have to say, I don't think these headphones require it. And while I do have my frustrations with some features and the app, overall, the Sonos Ace is an absolute joy to use. They offer a really good mix of design, build quality, sound quality, features, and again, it's a really lightweight, comfortable design that if you were one of those people that did not like the weight of AirPods Max, this is something you need to check out. Are they expensive? Yeah, $450, that's going to raise some eyebrows with a lot of customers, but personally, I don't mind paying a premium for a well-crafted product, which these are. And they solve a lot of issues that people have with the AirPods Max, like comfort, weight, lossless audio playback, USB-C, a better case, and hey, they're even $100 cheaper than the AirPods Max, so they're a better value overall. The Sonos Ace are just a really solid pair of headphones, and these definitely earn a spot in my headphone rotation. I like them a lot. So hopefully you liked this video. If you did, please give me a like. If you want to see more from the channel, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to purchase your own Sonos Ace headphones, make sure you use one of the affiliate links in the description below. Helps out the channel, really appreciate it. And yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.